Welcome to Tinker Playground. This is our very first podcast. I am your host, Michelle, welcoming you to a fun and interactive podcast where young explorers dive into the exciting world of science, technology, engineering, and math. Our podcast is designed for elementary school kids or curious young minds of any age. Each episode turns curiosity into discovery with fascinating experiments, intriguing facts, and imaginative stories. Join us in our playground, where every question leads to an adventure.
Hi, Michelle. This is awesome. What are we exploring today? I forgot to introduce myself. I am Mark, joining Michelle as a co-host on today's adventure.
Today, we are exploring the solar system. So, space cadets, are you ready to blast off on a super fun deep dive into our solar system?
Totally. What are we going to explore?
We're checking out all the awesome planets and everything else floating around out there, like comets, asteroids, and more.
Cool. Will we learn some seriously awesome facts?
You bet! Let's get started. Did you know that on some planets, it's so hot that metal would melt right on the surface?
Whoa, that's crazy.
Our solar system is full of surprising places. But first, we've got to start with the star of the show.
You mean the sun?
Yep, the one and only, the biggest and brightest thing we can see in the sky.
So what exactly is the sun?
It's not a planet like Earth. It's a star, a gigantic, super hot ball of gas made mostly of hydrogen and helium. The sun is a huge ball of fire in the sky. It's a star, just like the ones we see twinkling at night, but it's way closer to us, so it looks super big and bright.
Wow, how big is it?
So huge that you could fit over 1 million Earths inside of it.
1 million Earths? That's mind-blowing.
It sure is. The sun is ginormous. If the Earth were the size of a tiny marble, the sun would be like a giant beach ball. You could fit over 1 million Earths inside it. But the sun isn't just big and bright, it's also super important.
Why's that?
The sun is like Earth's best buddy. It gives us light and heat, helping plants grow, keeping us warm, and making life possible. Without the sun, Earth would be a super cold, dark place. The light and heat are essential for life on Earth. Without the sun, there'd be no plants, no food, and no us.
Whoa, the sun really is like Earth's best friend.
Did you know that the sun is really far away? 93 million miles. But its light is so fast that it only takes 8 minutes to reach us. It's like getting a super speedy delivery from space. The sun is kind of middle-aged. It's about 4.6 billion years old, way older than dinosaurs. But don't worry, it still has another 5 billion years to shine. In that far, far future, the sun will grow super big and become a red giant. Then it'll shrink into a tiny white star. Now that we've met the sun, let's check out the planets.
Cool. Where do we go first?
Next, we're blasting off to learn all about Mercury, the closest planet to the sun. Ready? Let's go!
What's so cool about Mercury?
First, did you know Mercury is the smallest planet in our solar system? It's just a little bigger than our moon.
Whoa, that's tiny.
And it's also the fastest planet. Mercury zooms around the sun at an incredible speed, like a cosmic race car. It takes only 88 Earth days to go all the way around. That's its whole year.
So Mercury has super short years? Cool.
Yep, but here's the wild part. A day on Mercury lasts way longer than a year. Imagine one day lasting almost 59 Earth days.
What? A single day is longer than a whole year? That's crazy.
It sure is. And guess what? Mercury has some of the most extreme temperatures in the solar system.
How extreme?
During the day, it's scorching, around 800 degrees Fahrenheit. But at night, it gets freezing cold, down to negative 290 degrees Fahrenheit. You'd need a swimsuit and a winter coat.
Whoa, that's extreme. Why does it get so cold?
Good question. Mercury has a super thin atmosphere, so it can't trap heat like Earth does.
That makes sense. What's the surface like?
It's covered in craters from billions of years of asteroid impacts. One of the biggest craters, the Caloris Basin, is so wide you could fit a country inside it.
Whoa, that's huge. Does Mercury have moons?
Nope, no moons and no rings either, just Mercury hanging out by itself.
Poor Mercury.
Don't worry, it's still special. And get this, despite being so close to the sun, Mercury has ice at its poles, hidden in deep craters where sunlight never reaches.
Ice on Mercury? That's so cool.
I know, right? And only 2 spacecrafts have ever visited Mercury, Mariner 10 and Messenger. They helped us learn a ton about this little planet.
Wow, Mercury sounds awesome. What's next?
Next up is Venus. Venus, the second planet from the sun. Let's go! Venus is even hot because its thick atmosphere traps heat.
Venus is like a giant greenhouse. Awesome. What's so special about Venus?
Well, Venus is often called Earth's twin because it's about the same size as Earth. But don't be fooled, it's way different.
How is it different?
For starters, Venus is the hottest planet in the entire solar system.
Even hotter than Mercury? But Mercury is closer to the sun.
Yep, Venus is even hotter because it has a super thick atmosphere made mostly of carbon dioxide. It's like a giant planet-sized greenhouse that traps heat. Temperatures there can soar up to 900 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt metal.
Whoa, that's like walking into a giant oven.
Exactly. And Venus has clouds of sulfuric acid, so it's definitely not a place for picnics.
Yikes. What does the surface look like?
Venus has lots of volcanoes, rocky plains, and craters. Scientists think it might even have more volcanoes than any other planet in the solar system.
Volcanoes. That sounds intense.
It is. And here's another cool fact. Venus has a super slow spin. A day on Venus is longer than a year there. One day lasts about 243 Earth days.
Whoa, that's so weird.
And get this, Venus spins in the opposite direction of most planets, including Earth. So if you were standing on Venus, the sun would rise in the west and set in the east.
That's so strange. Venus really is different.
It sure is. Scientists have sent spacecraft to study Venus, like Magellan, which mapped its surface, and Venus Express, which studied its atmosphere.
That's cool. So, what makes Venus so interesting to scientists?
Venus helps us understand what happens when a planet has too much greenhouse gas. It also shows us how planets can be so similar in size, but so different in other ways.
That's awesome. Venus is like Earth's super hot, mysterious twin.
Exactly. So what do you think of Venus?
It's wild. I'm glad we're learning about it from a safe distance, though.
Exactly. And after Venus, we head home. Earth, let's go, go, go.
Earth is the best. Why is it so special?
It's the only planet we know of that has life, from tiny bugs to giant whales, and of course, people like us. Earth is full of amazing creatures.
That's awesome. Why can Earth have life, but other planets can't?
Great question. Earth has 3 things that make it perfect for life. Liquid water, we've got oceans, rivers, and lakes. A breathable atmosphere, full of oxygen that we need to survive. Just the right temperature, not too hot, not too cold, but just right, like Goldilocks porridge.
Wow, Earth really is like the perfect home.
It is. Plus, Earth has something else that's super cool, tectonic plates. These giant pieces of the Earth's crust move around, creating mountains, earthquakes, and even volcanoes.
Whoa, I didn't know the ground could move like that.
Yep, Earth is always changing. And here's another fun fact. About 70% of Earth's surface is covered in water. That's why we call it the blue planet.
So most of Earth is water? That's so cool.
It is. And Earth's atmosphere protects us from the sun's harmful rays while keeping us warm, kind of like a big cozy blanket.
That's so important.
Absolutely. Oh, and did you know that Earth has a magnetic field? It acts like a giant shield, protecting us from dangerous particles coming from the sun.
Whoa, I didn't know Earth was so well protected.
It sure is. And we've got one more amazing feature. Our moon.
I love the moon.
Me too. The moon helps stabilize Earth's tilt, which gives us seasons, and it creates the tides in our oceans.
So the moon is like Earth's best buddy?
Exactly. Earth and the moon make a great team.
Earth really is an incredible planet.
It sure is. From its life-giving water to its protective atmosphere and friendly moon, Earth is a one-of-a-kind home.
I'm so glad we live here.
Me too. So remember, take care of our amazing planet. It's the only one we've got.
You got it, Captain. Let's keep exploring. What's next?
Mars, the red planet.
The red planet. Why is it called that?
Mars gets its nickname because of its rusty red soil. It's covered in iron oxide, which is basically the same stuff that makes metal rust here on Earth. That's what gives it that reddish color.
That's so cool. What's Mars like?
Well, Mars is a rocky planet, kind of like Earth, but it's much colder. On average, it's about -80 degrees Fahrenheit or -60 degrees Celsius. Brrr, you definitely need a warm spacesuit to visit.
Whoa, that's freezing. Does it have any water?
Yes, scientists have found frozen water at Mars's poles, and even evidence that Mars might have had rivers, lakes, and oceans a long time ago.
That's amazing. Do you think there were Martians?
We don't know for sure, but scientists are searching for signs of ancient life on Mars. They're looking for tiny fossils or even microorganisms. How cool would that be?
Finding Martian life would be awesome.
It would. And speaking of cool stuff, Mars has some of the tallest and biggest features in the solar system.
Like what?
For starters, there's Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in the solar system. It's about 3 times taller than Mount Everest.
Whoa, that's gigantic.
And then there's Valles Marineris, a huge canyon system that's over 2,500 miles long. That's about the width of the entire United States.
Mars has some serious landmarks.
It sure does. And Mars has 2 tiny moons, called Phobos and Deimos. They look more like space potatoes than our big round moon.
Space potatoes? That's funny.
I know, right? And here's something really exciting. Rovers like Curiosity and Perseverance are exploring Mars right now.
What are they doing there?
They're driving around, taking pictures, studying rocks, and searching for signs of ancient life. Perseverance even brought a little helicopter called Ingenuity to fly around.
A helicopter on Mars? That's so cool.
It is. Mars is like a giant puzzle, and every rover mission helps us learn more about its history and whether humans might live there one day.
Humans on Mars? That would be amazing.
It's definitely something scientists are working on. They're figuring out how we could build habitats and grow food on Mars.
Mars sounds so interesting.
It really is. From its red soil to its giant volcanoes and mysterious past, Mars is full of surprises.
I can't wait to learn more about it.
That's the spirit. Keep your curiosity alive, Space Cadet. Mars is waiting for explorers like you. After Mars, we enter the realm of the gas giants. Buckle up because we're heading to the biggest planet in our solar system, Jupiter. Jupiter is so huge that you could fit over 300 Earths inside it. It's like the king of planets.
Whoa, that's enormous.
It sure is. And Jupiter is famous for its Great Red Spot, a giant storm that's been raging for over 300 years.
A storm that's lasted 300 years? That's crazy.
I know, right? That storm is so big that you could fit 2 Earths inside it. Imagine a never-ending hurricane swirling around.
That sounds intense. What else is cool about Jupiter?
Jupiter is a gas giant, which means it's mostly made of gases like hydrogen and helium. If you tried to land on it, you'd just sink right through.
So it doesn't have a solid surface like Earth?
Nope, but deep inside it might have a small, rocky core.
That's wild. Does Jupiter have any moons?
Oh, it has a lot of moons, at least 92 of them. 4 of them are super famous: Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto.
What's so special about them?
Let's start with Io. It's covered in active volcanoes, more than any other place in the solar system.
Whoa, a moon with volcanoes? That's awesome.
Then there's Europa. Scientists think it has a giant ocean of liquid water beneath its icy surface, and it might even have the right conditions for life.
Life on a moon? That would be incredible.
I know, and Ganymede is the largest moon in the solar system. It's even bigger than Mercury.
Jupiter's moons sound amazing.
They really are. And did you know that Jupiter has faint rings too? They're not as flashy as Saturn's, but they're still pretty cool.
Jupiter has rings? I didn't know that.
Yep. And here's another fun fact. Jupiter spins so fast that its day is only 10 hours long, even though it's so big.
A 10-hour day? That's super short.
It sure is. Jupiter's fast spin also causes it to bulge out at the middle, so it's not a perfect sphere.
Jupiter sounds like a fascinating planet.
It definitely is. From its massive size to its raging storms and intriguing moons, Jupiter is full of wonders.
I can't wait to learn more about it.
Keep that curiosity going, Space Cadet. Jupiter is just one of the many amazing stops on our journey through the solar system.
Whoa, what about Saturn?
Our next stop is one of the most stunning planets in the solar system. Saturn, let's go.
Saturn? Isn't that the planet with the big rings?
You got it! Saturn's rings are its most famous feature. They're like a giant cosmic hula hoop, and they're absolutely breathtaking.
What are the rings made of?
They're made of billions of tiny pieces of ice, rock, and dust. Some of those pieces are as small as a pebble, while others are as big as a house.
Whoa, so it's like a giant icy playground.
Exactly. And those rings stretch out over 70,000 miles across, but they're super thin, only about 30 feet thick in some places.
That's so cool. What's Saturn itself like?
Saturn is a gas giant just like Jupiter. It's mostly made of hydrogen and helium, so it doesn't have a solid surface. If you tried to land on it, you'd sink right into the clouds.
Whoa, that's wild.
And here's something fun. Saturn is so light for its size that it could float in water if you had a giant enough tub.
A floating planet? That's hilarious.
It is. And Saturn isn't just about its rings. It also has a ton of moons, at least 83 of them.
83 moons? That's so many.
Yep, and some of them are pretty amazing. There's Titan, which is Saturn's biggest moon. It's covered in thick orange clouds, and it has lakes and rivers, not of water, but of liquid methane.
Liquid methane? That's so weird.
It sure is. And then there's Enceladus, a small icy moon that shoots giant water geysers into space. Scientists think it might have an ocean beneath its surface, just like Europa.
That's incredible. Could there be life there?
Maybe. That's why scientists are so excited to study it.
Saturn sounds like such a cool planet.
It really is. And did you know Saturn spins super fast, just like Jupiter? Its day is only about 10.7 hours long.
Another short day? These gas giants sure spin quickly.
They do. And because of that fast spin, Saturn bulges at the middle, so it's not a perfect sphere.
Saturn keeps surprising me.
That's what makes it so fascinating. From its icy rings to its mysterious moons, Saturn is like a treasure chest of wonders.
Are we headed to our next planet?
Yes, buckle up. We are headed to Uranus. Uranus is a gorgeous blue-green color because of the methane gas in its atmosphere. Methane absorbs red light, so all we see is that cool bluish glow.
That's so pretty. Is it a gas giant like Jupiter and Saturn?
Almost. Uranus is actually an ice giant because it has more icy materials, like water, ammonia, and methane, mixed with its gas.
An ice giant? That sounds so cool, literally.
You're right. Uranus is one of the coldest planets in the solar system, with temperatures dropping to negative 371 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 224 degrees Celsius. Brrr.
That's freezing. What else is different about it?
Uranus has a crazy tilt. It's tipped over on its side, so it rolls through space like a giant ball. Scientists think this happened because it was hit by a massive object long ago.
Whoa, that's so weird.
It is. And because of that tilt, Uranus has really strange seasons. Each pole gets about 42 years of sunlight, followed by 42 years of darkness.
42 years of daylight and then 42 years of night? That's wild.
Totally. And here's another cool fact. Uranus has faint rings, just like Saturn. They're not as flashy, but they're still pretty awesome.
I didn't know Uranus had rings.
Yep. And Uranus also has 27 moons. Most of them are named after characters from Shakespeare's plays, like Titania, Oberon, and Miranda.
Are those Shakespeare's characters? That's so cool.
It sure is. Oh, and Uranus takes a long time to orbit the sun. 1 year on Uranus is the same as 84 Earth years.
84 years? That's almost a whole lifetime.
It really is. But its day is short, lasting only about 17 hours. That means Uranus spins pretty quickly.
Uranus sounds like such a unique planet.
It definitely is. From its icy atmosphere to its sideways tilt and mysterious moons, Uranus is full of surprises. All right, Space Explorer, grab your space helmet because we're heading to the farthest planet in the solar system, Neptune. Neptune is a beautiful deep blue planet, thanks to the methane gas in its atmosphere. It's like a giant sapphire floating in space.
That sounds amazing. Is it another gas giant like Jupiter?
Not quite. It's an ice giant, just like Uranus. That means it's made of icy materials like water, ammonia, and methane mixed with its gas.
An ice giant? That sounds super cold.
It is. Neptune is the coldest planet in the solar system, with temperatures as low as negative 391 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 235 degrees Celsius. Talk about chilly.
Brrr. What else is interesting about Neptune?
Neptune has some of the strongest winds in the solar system, blowing at speeds of up to 200 miles per hour, faster than a jet plane.
Whoa, that's like a never-ending hurricane.
Exactly. And Neptune also has a giant storm, kind of like Jupiter's Great Red Spot, but smaller. It's called the Great Dark Spot, and it's a massive storm swirling on its surface.
Neptune has storms too?
It sure does. And just like Saturn and Uranus, Neptune has faint rings. They're not as bright, but they're still there, made of dust and small rocks.
I didn't know Neptune had rings.
Yep. And Neptune also has 4 moons. The biggest one is Triton, which is super interesting because it orbits Neptune backward, the opposite direction of the planet's spin.
Backward? That's so weird.
It is. Scientists think Triton might be a captured object from the Kuiper Belt, a region of icy bodies way out in the solar system.
That's fascinating. How long does it take Neptune to go around the sun?
Neptune is really far from the sun, so it takes a whopping 165 Earth years to complete one orbit. That means a single year on Neptune is longer than a person's lifetime.
165 years? That's forever.
It sure feels like it. But Neptune's day is much shorter, only about 16 hours long.
Neptune sounds like such a mysterious and amazing planet.
It is. From its deep blue color and wild winds to its backward moon and icy atmosphere, Neptune is full of wonders waiting to be explored. That's all the planets of the solar system.
Wait a minute. But what about Pluto? Isn't that the 9th planet?
You're right. Pluto used to be the 9th planet, but in 2006 scientists decided it's actually a dwarf planet.
A dwarf planet? What's that?
Great question. A dwarf planet is kind of like a mini planet. It orbits the sun just like the big planets, but it's not big enough to clear its orbit of other space rocks.
Oh, so it's like a little planet that doesn't play cleanup?
Exactly. But don't let its size fool you. Pluto is full of surprises.
Like what?
For starters, Pluto is really, really far away. It's about 3.6 billion miles from the sun. That's why it's super cold, around negative 375 degrees Fahrenheit, or negative 225 degrees Celsius.
Brr, that's even colder than Neptune.
Yep, Pluto is like a giant cosmic freezer. And get this, Pluto's surface is covered in frozen nitrogen, and it even has mountains made of ice.
Ice mountains? That's awesome.
It gets even better. Pluto has a super thin atmosphere, and sometimes, when it gets a little closer to the sun, some of the frozen nitrogen turns into gas, creating a temporary atmosphere.
Whoa, it's like Pluto breathes in and out.
That's a cool way to think about it. And Pluto isn't alone out there. It has 5 moons, and the biggest one is called Charon.
5 moons? What's special about Charon?
Charon is huge, almost half the size of Pluto. Together, Pluto and Charon kind of act like a double planet system because they both orbit a point in space between them.
That's so cool. What else is special about Pluto?
Pluto takes a long time to orbit the Sun. 1 year on, Pluto equals 248 Earth years. It's so far away that it hasn't even completed one orbit since it was discovered in 1930.
248 years? That's forever.
It really is. Oh, and Pluto is part of a region called the Kuiper Belt, which is like a huge neighborhood of icy objects way beyond Neptune.
So Pluto has lots of icy neighbors?
Exactly. It's not lonely at all. And in 2015, a spacecraft called New Horizons visited Pluto and sent back amazing pictures and data.
I've seen some of those pictures. Pluto looks so cool. Our solar system is so much bigger than I thought.
It sure is. And don't forget about the asteroid belt and comets.
Asteroids are like space rocks, right?
Yep, they're leftover building blocks from when the solar system formed.
And comets have those awesome glowing tails.
Right. When they get close to the sun, the ice vaporizes, creating those amazing tails.
So cool. How did all this stuff even get here?
It all started billions of years ago from a giant cloud of gas and dust. Gravity pulled it together, forming the sun and planets.
That's incredible.
Wow, Space Explorer, what an incredible journey we've been on today. From the fiery sun to the icy edges of the Kuiper Belt, we've explored planets, moons, rings, and even dwarf planets like Pluto.
Yeah, it's been amazing. I can't believe how much there is to learn about our solar system.
That's the best part. There's still so much out there waiting to be discovered. Remember, space is a giant playground for curious minds like yours.
I'm totally inspired to keep exploring and learning more.
That's the spirit. Whether you're stargazing, reading about space missions, or dreaming of becoming an astronaut, the adventure never ends.
Thanks for taking me on this awesome journey.
Anytime, Space Cadet. And to all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us on Tinker Playground. Don't forget to keep asking questions, stay curious, and explore the world around you, because every question leads to an adventure.
Until next time, explorers.
That's right. Stay curious, keep tinkering, and we'll see you next time on Tinker Playground. Keep updated on our podcast by following us on your favorite podcast provider or look us up on our website at www.tinker